Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro met with doctors in Caracas, where he referred to the preparations underway to combat the coronavirus should it reach the country. The first results are coming in from the primaries held in 6 states of the US this Tuesday as part of the final race for the Democratic nomination for president. Prime Minister of Barbados, Mottley, will head a Caricom delegation to Guyana on Wednesday. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, I'm Katrina Goss. March 10th is National Doctors' Day in Venezuela. To mark the occasion, President Nicolas Maduro met with doctors in Caracas, where he referred to the preparations underway to combat the coronavirus should it reach Venezuela.
There are campaigns on social networks that applaud and party
cuando se está descartando un caso.
When a case is being rolled out, and almost request that the coronavirus arrive to Venezuela. Sectors of the right and social media are almost holding a party to welcome it.
No tienen el mínimo sentido humano.
They lack the minimum respect for human life. They lack the minimum sense of belonging to the homeland.
De pertenencia a la patria. Venezuela hemos iniciado una jornada.
We have started an intense day of prevention, of protection of our country.
De protección de nuestro país. De preparación para enfrentar.
Of preparations to face the coronavirus, of preparation of the entire public health system, and also of coordination and preparation of the private health system.
Y preparación del sistema privado de salud también.
Supporters of the Bolivarian Revolution mobilized this Tuesday across Venezuela in defense of national sovereignty and peace. A march was held to reject the recent threats of the United States and from extremist sectors of the opposition, as recently announced by Foreign Minister Jorge Ariasa. The demonstration called for peace in the nation and rejected any attempts at destabilization. It also formed part of the National Sanctions Are a Crime campaign to denounce the unilateral measures of the US government against the Venezuelan economy. The march came after the implementation of the second phase of the 2020 Bolivarian Shield military exercises. Meanwhile, opposition sectors that support lawmaker Juan Guaido also held a parallel demonstration in Caracas. In this context, Diosdado Cabello, president of the National Constituent Assembly, stressed that the opposition uses such demonstrations as a means of obtaining income from their sponsors in the United States.
Why do they live on violence? Because it's their business. When you talk to the right about elections, they don't want elections, because their real business is this. They have turned protests into business that allows them to generate income.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, reiterated on Tuesday her concerns about the imposition of new US sanctions against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. In an update on the human rights situation in Venezuela, in the context of the 43rd session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, the High Commissioner referred to unilateral measures against state companies such as the Conviasa airline and PDVSA oil company. Bachelet also highlighted her confidence in the political dialogue process underway in Venezuela between the government and sectors of the opposition. Venezuela's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, Jorge Valero, said he hopes to promote a dialogue between the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the government of Venezuela.
Madam President, cooperation and dialogue between the Bolivarian government and the Office of the High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet should prevail because it has given results. A team from your office is currently in Venezuela and has all the support of the state. This cooperation is necessary and it follows principles of the international law established in the United Nations Charter, based on sovereignty and non-interference in domestic affairs.
United States Special Representative for Venezuela Elliot Abrams scurried away from his own event at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies after activists of the Code Pink social justice movement questioned his role in the destabilization of Venezuela.
Security. Cambia security.
A hybrid war against Venezuela. The Trump administration is escalating. The Trump administration has threatened the naval blockade. They have threatened to call maximum pressure march to intensify the sanctions. The sanctions, according to Alfred Desayas, UN Special Rapporteur, have killed 100,000 people already. It amounts to collective punishment, which is a war crime. You know all about war crimes, don't you, Mr. Abrams?
I'm sorry. We don't do
The sanctions for killing people and Elliot Abrams.
In Argentina, small-scale farmers making up the Union of Workers of the Earth held a rally in Plaza de Mayo to support the national government, following calls for a lockout by agricultural business sectors over a tariff increase on soybean exports. In an act of solidarity, small and medium agricultural producers delivered more than 20,000 kilos of fruit and vegetables to support the government's redistributive measures aimed at benefiting rural sectors and regional economies. Citizens who visited the Plaza de Mayo rejected the lockout announced by rural landowners and expressed gratitude for the fruits and vegetables provided at affordable prices. Small-scale producers and ruling party officials believe that the lockout is a political move by supporters of former President Mauricio Macri to force the government to reverse the increase of 3% in tariffs. Thousands of women from Brazil's landless workers movement held numerous marches on Monday to protest against the agricultural policies of far-right President Jair Bolsonaro. In Brasilia, hundreds of MST women occupied the headquarters of the Ministry of Agriculture to denounce what they called the deadly and destructive alliance between the Bolsonaro government and the imperialist international capital that promotes violence. Thousands also marched in other cities, shutting down the Ministry of Economy in Sao Paulo and also occupying the National Institute for Colonization and Agrarian Reform headquarters in the state of Alagoas. Foreign Minister of Uruguay, Ernesto Talvi, announced on Tuesday the withdrawal of his country from the Union of South American Nations and the return to the Inter-American Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance. In a statement, the Uruguayan Ministry of Foreign Affairs claimed that UNASUR is based on political ideological alignments and highlighted alleged problems within the organisation. The Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance has been used to interfere in the internal affairs of several Latin American countries, with calls for it to be used against Venezuela. The statement also reported that Talvi's first official mission as Foreign Minister will be his participation in the OAS General Assembly to be held in Washington on March 20th. And after this short break, we have the latest on the primaries in the United States. Don't go away. Welcome back. Results are starting to come in from the primaries held in 6 states across the US as part of the final race for the Democratic nomination for president. Just a week after Super Tuesday, which saw Joe Biden win 10 out of 14 states, both he and Senator of Vermont Bernie Sanders are battling to secure delegates before the Democratic National Convention in July, which will decide the candidate to face President Donald Trump in November. According to the latest results, Biden has taken a lead in Michigan, Missouri and Mississippi, while results are yet to come in for Idaho, North Dakota and Washington. The key state this Tuesday is Michigan, which offers a total of 125 delegates. And earlier we spoke with Cuban analyst Carlos Azugaray regarding the significance of the Democratic primaries this Tuesday.
With these states, with these 6 states today, we are only at the mark of 20 states. So we have still another 30 states to go. So we have to keep our minds open. But of course, it's very important for Bernie Sanders to do today very well, because he did very well the first 3 dates. Then Biden did very well in South Carolina and Super Tuesday. This is kind of a minimal Super Tuesday, so it's going to be interesting.
On Tuesday, the suspension of public charter flights between the United States and all Cuban destinations except Havana officially entered into force. The measure, which was announced by the US Secretary of State in January, also includes a limit of 3,600 round flights to Havana per year. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez announced that the measures constitute a human rights violation against both the Cuban people and the freedom of travel of American citizens. This decision is one of the 190 restrictions imposed by the Trump administration against Cuba since 2017. Prime Minister of Barbados, Mottley, will head a delegation of regional leaders to Guyana on Wednesday. Mottley will travel to the South American country in her capacity as the chair of the Caribbean community in the midst of the crisis following the March 2nd general elections. The Prime Minister previously called for good sense to prevail in Guyana to achieve a peaceful and lawful completion of the electoral process.
We are conscious that we are not only, however, treating to our own needs.
Guyana's Chief Justice Roxanne George on Tuesday heard the case filed by the People's Progressive Party Civic to prevent the Guyana Elections Commission from using unverified data to declare the results of the general and regional elections. The process was further delayed last Thursday after the returning officer of Region 4, Clement Mingo, unilaterally declared the results for the district without completing the ongoing verification process of the statement of polls. This resulted in former Attorney General Annie Nandlaw quickly appealing to the High Court for an injunction to stop the declaration of the results. On Saturday, Chief Justice Roxanne George heard the legal arguments from both the Elections Commission and the applicant. The Commission's lawyer contended that the High Court does not have the jurisdiction to deal with the issue during an ongoing election, but rather any legal challenge should be filed via an elections petition following the declaration of the results. Guyana's incumbent President David Granger has lashed out at the opposition, claiming that they created an atmosphere of intimidation and fear at the office of the Elections Commission. In a statement, Granger accused the opposition of interrupting the Commission's work at the office of the Returning Officer of District No. 4 and also of disseminating a falsification of reality. The opposition People's Progressive Party Civic has accused the ruling party of electoral fraud as the crisis continues to fuel unrest in the country. And we're taking one last break now, but stay with us for more on the situation in Syria. Welcome back. The Russian government on Tuesday noted the possibility of reaching an agreement with Saudi Arabia regarding oil production. The Organisation of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and other large oil producers led by Russia failed last week to agree on further joint action to curb production after the current deal expires at the end of March. Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak has noted that all production restrictions related to the deal will be lifted from April 1st, pitting Russia and Saudi Arabia against each other in a fight for market share. Saudi Arabia earlier announced plans to raise its supply to 12.3 million barrels per day in April. On Monday, oil prices saw their biggest drop since the 1991 Gulf War. After 9 years of conflict in Syria and as government forces are coming closer to eradicating all terrorist groups from the country, a US economic, commercial and financial blockade is continuing to impact the population. Our correspondent Hisham Wanas brings us more in the following report.
This imposition in December
2019 of the so-called Kisar Act intensifies the economic and resource war that the United States and its allies have waged against Syria since 2011. A law whereby Washington, in addition to Damascus, imposed sanctions on all state governments, companies, entities and individuals that collaborate with the Syrian government. A measure that since its application caused a huge devaluation of the Syrian currency against the dollar and a large price increase that derived the population of heating, food, medicine and advance. To achieve this objective, it could not achieve through the terrorist war. The United States passed this law that targets the economic sanctions imposed on the Syria people to reach public institutions, economic facilities, businessmen, and the states that help Syria, and all of this to keep the Syrian economy suffocating, break the Syrian people, and impose the will of the United States on Syria. Another aspect of the U.S. economic war against Syria is the looting of the Arab country energy and natural resources. Before the war, Syrian reserves totaled more than 2.5 billion barrels of oil and 8.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas. Many of these reserves were destroyed, others were looted by the Islamic State, and many others are controlled by the U.S. troops illegally present in the country, in the Raqqa and the Erbil regions. The plundering of Syria oil occurs with the collaboration of Kurdish militias of the so-called Syrian Democratic Force, and is smuggled across the border with Turkey in a serious violation of international law to tighten the blockade on Syria, and thus try to bring the country to its knees by launching a new phase of the war, and it is the economic war. The terrorist war and the economic blockade caused economic loss estimated at US $500 billion in total. The infrastructures need investment of about $42 billion, healthcare facilities around $11 billion, education in general requires $5 billion, and water resource and drinking water requires approximately $141 billion. Whatever the sanctions which suffocate the country impede its reconstruction and development, and therefore prevent the return of refugees and displaced persons to their homes.
We are currently facing a great challenge in Syria because after the great triumphs achieved at the military level, now the enemies of Syria impose an economic war and economic terrorism that seek to prevent the reconstruction of the country and the recovery of its human potential. But even so, Syria is looking for ways to get ahead and has the support of our allies to remain firm.
Meanwhile, Syria, just as it resists the terrorist war, is resisting the economic war. A challenge facing the Syrian government, which with the support of citizens declared a war on the dollar to stabilize price. Also, with the support of friendly countries, the country rehabilitated and reactivated 77,000 industrial facilities of the existing 132,000. The government revived the industrial capacities of the country, promote medium and long-term investment to rehabilitate the infrastructure, and despite all the difficulties, it maintains its social and economic suicide policy.
Mantuvo su política de subsidio social y económico. Hisham Nus, Telesur, Damasco, Siria.
Bolivian Minister of Health Annabel Cruz confirmed the country's first 2 coronavirus cases on Tuesday. Both patients are women aged over 60 who had been in Italy. Authorities in Panama also confirmed the first case of COVID-19 as a 40-year-old woman. Meanwhile, the Ecuadorian government is preparing to adopt measures to face the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak. And Jamaican Health Minister Christopher Tufton reported the country's first case of the coronavirus on Tuesday. Speaking during a press conference, Tufton explained that the female patient had returned from the United Kingdom on March 4th and had been in isolation since Monday after showing symptoms of the virus. Jamaica is the 4th Caribbean country to report a case after the Dominican Republic, St. Martin and St. Bart's. Puerto Rico has 4 suspected cases, but none have yet been confirmed. A number of passengers disembarked from a coronavirus-hit cruise ship in California on Tuesday after several days stranded at sea, as US President Donald Trump said the operation was going along incredibly well, despite reports of slow progress. The Grand Princess ship arrived at a sealed-off wharf at the port of Oakland in San Francisco Bay Monday, with 21 confirmed coronavirus cases among some 3,500 passengers and crew. The most critically ill were immediately taken on shore for medical care by emergency health workers, while other passengers, including tourists from Canada, were also allowed to disembark. And on Tuesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping visited residents quarantined at home in a community of Wuhan, the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak. The president also visited the Huishuangshan Hospital to oversee epidemic prevention measures, where he learned about the hospital's operations, treatment of patients, protection for medical workers and scientific research. He also visited patients being treated there and sent his regards to medical workers who have been fighting the epidemic on the front line day and night, encouraging them to remain confident in defeating the virus. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus stressed that while the threat of a pandemic is very real, 93% of the worldwide cases of the coronavirus are confined to just 4 countries. Meanwhile, the UK confirmed 48 more cases, raising its total to more than 300. The COVID-19 virus is now also present in every German state, where the number of confirmed infections is 1,139. Likewise, Spain announced the closure of all schools in the capital region, from nurseries to universities, for 2 weeks starting on Wednesday. The global death toll has now surpassed 4,000 and the number of confirmed cases approached 115,000. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo confirmed its first coronavirus case on Tuesday. The patient is a Belgian citizen who has been in the country for several days, according to Health Minister Etienne Longongo. He noted that efforts were ongoing to track people who had come into contact with the patient so that they too can be placed in quarantine and tested. The patient is hospitalized in the capital of Kinshasa, the third most populous city in Africa, with a population of more than 10 million people, that is served by direct flights from Brussels and Paris. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.